This is an art attack.
This is an arc analysis.
This is an art attack. Oh, I said it wrong. My bad.
This is arc analysis.
I'll say it right at some point.
Listen, we told you we'd be back with more sync, and we're back with more sync. Volume 2, Blood and Rain.
Good lord.
Blood and Rain, written by John Lees, drawn by Alex Cormack, published by Comics Tribe. Volume 2.
If you've been listening, you kind of understand what this world is about. It is a city in the descent of madness. Everywhere you turn, everywhere you peek around, there's something brutal, heinous, violent, blood soaked going on that you really can't escape it. And arguably, this may be my favorite issue, issue number 6, because it kind of shows you how dark this world is.
Damn it. I'm saying damn it because you beat me to the punch because it's a silent issue.
Yes.
You know I
No,
love my silent issues. You
no
know I
words are
love my silent
exchanged.
issues. I love
It,
those issues with no words that just kind of
it's
let
silent
us.
but sound. It
Yeah,
it rains, and the artwork with the rain is
really cool.
fantastic. And in previous in the previous episode we talked about sync, there is a method to how they panel and the artwork happens. Like you get to understand a bit about the character in a normal setting with normal paneling before it breaks into the decline. This is no. You get like a pair of eyes closed and it's normal, and then opens and utter fear. The entire
Yeah,
book is broken down into, I guess, what the feverish life of being a blood-soaked, gas-driven, psychedelic, psycho clown would be.
yeah. Your yeah, something. Your clowns are back in this issue.
Yes,
You love your clowns.
I don't. They scare me, and this is the book that they freaked me into running away from blue vans that I didn't see anywhere.
And it opens. Like you said, it opens with a woman being, I guess, trying to be converted by the clowns.
Yeah,
Like right in the midst of it. They open with her slash. They open with them slashing her cheeks and putting and trying to get that nose on her, and she fights her way out. And the rest of the issue is where it goes from there because she does initially break free, and
but
we have our story develop. Right?
but breaking free in
Doesn't
this
mean yeah.
world is a different level of breaking free. It's maybe the most beautiful looking issue as well because it's so creepy. The
Yeah.
way that they pay attention to the line strokes of the rain. Like I've never seen rain drawn like this because they use white spaces to do the water, and it's all night, so it's black spaces inhabiting the background, and the characters just pop even more on top of it.
Yeah.
And going back to the amazing use of red, oh my gosh! And she's
Yeah.
just constantly bleeding every time you see her. That even like bystanders are like, "What's going on with this chick over here?"
Yeah. Yeah, the only sounds you hear, or I guess read in this issue, are evil laughs, gargling on blood, and tires screeching. More or less, that's
Um, this is also the first issue. I guess this volume is when we introduce kind of the letters from the author,
yeah. I'm glad you brought this up. These are really cool.
which I totally enjoyed because you get a real taste of where he's coming from, what his inspirations are, and how he got to kind of the world that he built in Sink Hill. A lot of great recommendations of movies and things you can check out too, right? This first issue recommends Manhunter, which is a Michael Mann film, Silence of the Lambs, Green Room, which we both saw and loved.
Green
I
Room.
recommend it,
Yeah.
and Blue Ruin, which I wasn't too familiar with, so I tried its trailer, and I'm pretty sure it's going to be on a watch list very soon. Um, but again, we're back in this world. It's
So,
interesting with the second volume how much information now he's trying to build this world of Sink Hill into.
I was just gonna say something like that because in the first volume with the first 5 issues, very anthology. Like this happens, and then this happens, and then this happens, and then this happens, and they're all kind of doing their own thing. There's a bit of crossover, but that's it. This next 5 issues, number 6 to number 10, in the second volume, are building off what's previously there. So although we get a new character in this one, I don't even think we know her name.
No, I
Um,
don't remember.
some of the other issues, excuse me, are building directly off of things that happened in the first volume, and sometimes you don't even know it, which is really cool.
Which is insane.
Yeah, which is really cool because I didn't even click until like it actually worked. I didn't see that coming. Is what I'm saying was some of the later issues. Anyways, this issue, a woman is being converted by the clowns, and she kind of gets away at first, and you see how that develops because they chase her down. They don't give up on their prey. I
No.
assumed I was in the impression that these clowns were kind of more nonchalant. Like once they start to get you, if you get away, it's like man, whatever. No,
But
they're going. They're
they
chasing her
put in
going
the
like
work. Yeah,
wee.
they put in work, right? Like
Yeah,
they started putting the tags on there, like, and I don't know if it's because like the rival gangs are going out here, like they just want the numbers, because that kind of feeds into it at a certain like the last issue kind of
must be.
helps circle everything together, um, and that's its own weird issue. But there's again what we don't know, we have to fill in with our crazy imaginations. I kind of feel like the clowns feel like they're outnumbered and they need more vans on the street. Like there's that one paneling at the
You
end of
know,
the issue that was just like, oh man, like it goes
yeah,
deeper than you thought it would go.
that makes a lot of sense because they're really desperate to keep her
Hmm.
in their clutches, right? And we don't know who she is, but she's a fighter, and she's got my respect for breaking away from the van,
Yeah,
right? Where it goes from there, it's kind of interesting. It's a fun read.
and
Try
that's just the first issue of Volume
That's
Two.
just the first issue, yeah. And this, so we'll do what we did the first time we did this,
Give it a little
our
taste.
first volume. We just kind of mentioned what every issue is about, and then we kind of go in a little bit. We try not to get too much spoilers. So that issue is about the woman trying to get away from the clowns. Second one is about the dickheads.
Yeah, finally.
Yeah, it's finally, which is there's a member named. So you learn some more, like you said, there's more information in this. So you learn that the dickheads are trying to get initiated into like made men. I guess they're
Right.
called witnesses or whatever, and um, they have to do that before they turn 30. And to get initiated, you have to do something horrible
Yeah.
to somebody else.
It's
It's
a
horrible or crazy.
it's a complete R-rated, X-rated version of Danny from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle original movie trying to get into the Foot Clan.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Because I have to bring that back because in the first episode of this, I guess, two-parter arc analysis, I tried to make the connection of Foot Clan and Putty Soldiers because I couldn't figure out what these clans are. Like I
Yeah.
haven't read anything that's this sadistic where there's more than one. Either there's just one crazy clan that kind
Yeah.
of rules everything, but there's nothing that's usually on par. But I was thinking about it, and it's kind of like Clockwork Orange. It's like we're in that world where those guys. I wish I remember the name of whoever, Michael McDowell, something McDowell, the lead character in that. He rolls with a gang, and they're kind of anarchists, and they don't give a fuck. There's no rules. There's no sense to whatever they'll do. They'll do anything. That's kind of this gang. Like they're fighting for a spot, but I feel like the spot's just to survive this town.
Yeah. And if they don't get initiated, they face something called was it the oh man, I forget what it's called now. But they face this trial that nobody's ever come back from. And the lead balloon is what it's called. Sorry, the lead
Ah,
balloon. I wrote down.
okay,
It's called the lead balloon, and I was like, "What is that?" Like nobody knows, because nobody's ever come back from it. And
right.
so Jordan's kind of a race against the clock but he's not a violent person. That's what I forgot to mention. He's in this gang, but he doesn't want to do bad things. So he's stuck between a rock and a hard place because his friend Emma, who is from the first volume, tries to help him do it without being too violent, and
Right.
he kind of goes from there. The ending is really cool in this. I was like, oh, because this issue circles back a few things. It circles back
Yes,
Emma, and it circles back something else.
like how do I talk about it without talking about it? But you get to see inside of the thing that we never got to see inside. And I was like, oh god,
Yeah. Yeah, and I was like, oh, and then why the way it is? It's like, oh, okay,
yeah.
that's
And
interesting.
don't take that. That's not for public
Yeah,
use.
I want to talk. Like, we just talk about this, like just
Let's. If we're gonna spoil one thing, let's spoil
so,
this one.
so it brings back the murder bus, and
Oh my gosh, so good, so
it's
good.
so cool, and it's like, oh, okay, well, why is the murder bus a murder bus? And you learn why there's so many dead bodies in it, because the lead balloon trial is like, okay, if we're gonna spoil one thing, we'll do this. It's kind of like a bit of a fake out because they basically you go to meet Sai, and he kind of just this. I guess he gives you the kiss of death, and it's kind of like, all right, good boy, be on your way. And then when you come out, there's the bus drives by, And I
It's so
guess the
crazy.
idea is that whoever's pure of soul is going to try and figure out where that bus is going, right? Or it's
Is it
somehow.
though? Is that what you
I
pulled
don't
from
know.
it?
That's kind of the impression I got. Is like whoever's like, if they're strong enough to get through that many years of the dickheads without converting to like violence, then they're going to be curious enough about the bus. Either that or they just get picked up by it. I'm not quite sure, but it's
But there's so few people that have like got out unscathed in this world.
yeah. So I don't know, but it's a meat locker. It's basically just a meat locker, right? So it's like how did so that's nothing they don't really fully answer. They just kind of set him up. There's the bus right on the bus's route, and then because when he does the trial thing, I'm kind of like, how does nobody ever see these guys again? He just gives
Right.
them basically the kid, like I said, kiss of death, right? Like I said earlier, and then just sends them on their way. And it's like, oh, so that's what happens to them. So that was really cool. That was really really cool ending. I loved it. Um,
Yes, this is also and a change for this volume, which kind of takes away from it personally, is not the letters because I still enjoy the letters coming from
mhm.
the author, but there's like these ancillary and kind of smaller little issues, like addendum issues that help kind of fledge out the world and build other characters that are in it. But it's not given the same care that we have with the main issues. It's not really a full comic. It's more like 3 or 4 pages, just trying to set the tone of like, oh, if you go down this place, you may meet the butcher or these other characters. It's also the artwork drastically changes, and I know the author was talking about like he was letting different artists try out these little, essentially auditioning these little inserts to give a different feel for the book. It doesn't ruin the book for me, but it just doesn't elevate it at all. Like the
It doesn't
letters
add
I
anything.
really
Yeah,
enjoyed because in this issue he talks about City of God, amazing movie if you've
yeah.
never seen that. He talks about Get Out, It, and The Duel, as well as what's the last one?
Hereditary.
Hereditary, and then makes reference to Chew, which is an amazing
Chew.
book that
Yeah.
we talked about that
Yeah.
I still want to go back to. Um, my question for you is: I know the last issue I talked about. If you want to see this in a TV show, movie, or video game, is there any way that we could get just the murder bus in a movie,
Yeah.
and they just give us kind of a peek into what Sink Hill is?
Yeah.
I
Because
feel
the
like
murder bus is around less than the vans.
yes.
It only and it's just that weird driver that I don't know if he is I don't think he's a clown, right? He's just kind of like
No.
and then and then he's like this is bus full of just like literally chopped liver. And
Like
it's
that
like
dude must have the best
what
healthcare
the
ever to drive that van. Like
no, imagine all
how
the
how how is this?
nasty shit.
But like
Yeah.
how is the city thriving? Like how is it making any money? Everything's corrupt
Yeah.
and like blood in the streets. Like I've yet to see any sort of police sort of faction step
Nope.
in. But I'd
There
be shitting bricks if I was a cop in this
is that
movie.
we do see detectives in one of the issues and they just kind of they're so dirty that it's like
They
not,
basically may be the clown.
yeah. Because the next issue is about Rohan Hardy and
Graphite
his fa
Green.
was that the
Graphite
graphite
Green.
green, yeah, which is actually two parter, and I was like, oh, this
Yes.
is a two part. That's interesting. So seven or 8 and 9 are a two parter.
Perfect. Yes.
It's about Rohan Hardy and his family. They're hostile. They're living. They're Iraq, right? Or
Irania.
Iranian. Okay, I can't remember. I think they're
And
Iraqian. It doesn't matter. That's
Middle
not important.
Eastern
What's important is that
new immigrants to
yeah,
Scotland, right? So they're having a hard time of kind of finding a home and kind of feeling at peace with this world because it's a crazy world.
yeah, them and many others are yeah having a hard time kind of finding footing, especially when their hostile gets killed. So as soon as it does, it's kind of like this guy shows up and it's kind of like, hey,
Yeah, I got a deal for you.
come and check out Graphite Green Estate.
Oh man.
Oh, it's a great. And then they go, so they don't really have a choice because they're down on their luck.
And it seems
Who's
amazing
me?
at surface level. Like there's an amazing apartment, there's amenities, there's a ping pong table. Like it's brand new built condos that they
Yeah.
get to basically live in for free. I don't know if
Yeah.
they figured out what the price, but anyway, it's too good to be true. Too good to be true.
And Rohan like figures that out long before, and he was like, "This is weird. Everybody's nice. This is strange. Like
Yeah,
what?"
especially that one neighbor.
Yeah, the one neighbor is really, really nice, and he's kind of like, "Nah, this is messed up." Because he's a cab driver, so he drives at night, and then he comes back in the night after being treated like shit
And
out
if
at his job. He comes home, and everybody's super, super nice. He's like something doesn't fit.
it was such an interesting insight to have him as a cab driver to understand. Like you get to see kind of the underbelly of whatever that city is. You're getting people at their lowest or best or worst
Yeah,
as a cab driver and see how they treat you, right? So coming there from an immigrant, there's a lot of paneling talking about like go back to your own country and like all
yeah,
this aggression that he was taking. And you can just see it wearing on his face when he gets angrier and angrier with the world that he's now stuck in, trying to make it better for his family, a better life for his family. It was I thought it was like an amazing sort of intro into his life
yeah,
and
and it,
probably what a lot of immigrant drivers may have to go through. Uber
yeah,
drivers, uh, what's the other one called? Lyft drivers, taxi
lift, yeah.
drivers. Yeah.
And so you could tell right off the bat that something's weird about this place. Even as a reader, it's like this is way too convenient,
Too clean.
too clean. But yeah, if something seems too good to be true, it almost always is.
9 times out of 10.
Yeah, it's always so. And it turns out that it is too. But it's basically because it's a two-parter. We'll give out that it's basically a death trap, and they send um this organized group sends four killers into the midst, and whoever it's like a game show. Whoever kills the most amount of civilians in there wins the game.
I wasn't even gonna give that away. Like I thought that was like
Yeah,
amazing, but there's even more twist on top of
yeah. I
that.
was gonna. That's all I was gonna say.
Fair enough. And I don't want to like again. This was one of my favorite letters from the author because he talks about what his initial thoughts of what this issue was going to be when he
Hmm.
was calling it schemers and what he where he wanted to go and then what he turned it into. But the three movies that he recommends are all great for, I think it's 80s, and then aughts for when they came out. I'm not going to reveal them here because I feel like it just gives away what the
Oh yeah,
comic is about.
yeah.
But I love those movies. And then they talked about uh, two other films after, one from Quentin Tarantino and one that has, what's his name? Who plays Loki?
Hiddleston.
Hiddleston. And again, I don't want to give it up, but I would recommend that Hiddleston movie as well because that it's not what you're expecting, and that's what these two issues turn into. Right?
What's really cool about these um addendums, I guess you want to call them. I don't know. What he ever the bookends that he writes about his influences for the issue stuff is really cool because it gives you a whole new perspective on the issue that you read, his writing style. It just kind of reframes some things, and it's like, oh, that's cool. I did notice that, or I did notice this, or it's like, oh, I should check this out now. I like when authors do this.
Yeah,
I think there should be more of it because it kind of gives you an idea. Sam Keith is really good about this too. It wasn't quite as detailed, but remember the letters in the back of the Max and stuff.
yeah,
It's
right. Yep.
you got all this information, and you kind of just see different sides of the creators, and it does change the context of some things in your books, and it makes it more uh, complex, right?
Yeah,
And
it definitely gives you another layer. Sam Keith was completely different in the fact that like he built a whole other set of like, he built a community off people's
yeah,
interpretations and kind of what they were going through with their traumas and stuff like this. This one really gives you an insight into the thought process of what this world is and the inspirations around it, which is amazing because I just as I kept reading these issues, I couldn't wait to get to his movie recommendation list and what he was inspired by to see like, oh, I've seen this. I know exactly what he's talking about. And like, oh, that's the movie I was thinking about when I read this. But going into the ninth issue of this, it is so much fun because it's almost like the ownership is given back to the ones that thought they were didn't have the ownership and the descent. Again, we can't talk about it the way that we like. We're gonna have to do like a spoilers arc analysis where we just give away
I mean, we can do that
everything.
right now. We can give away everything if
Well,
you
I don't.
really want to. It's
I
our show. We
I
can.
I don't. I'll give away. Oh, do I want to give away the last issue? The last issue is so funny and
Last
different and
issue is amazing. Well,
racist.
last issue. Okay, so we can skip 8 and 9 are two-parter, right? And they kind of wrap up. They don't wrap anything up really. They just
No,
they just kind of.
no.
I shouldn't. I don't know what I'm trying to say here, but
They
they
complete
feel in
this
place. They completely. Yeah.
well they complete this mission like there's always like and mission's not the right word they complete this night or like this day or like this week and it seems like each character is just trying to survive the next night the next day the next
Yeah.
week right and if you can you learn a little about yourself you gain some skills but you're not the same like anyone that survives is definitely not the same person they were yesterday let alone what they had to do when they had to pick up that thing in order to make it because sooner or later everyone gets right on them, right? And man, oh, such a sync.
Yeah. And then issue 10 is a bit of an epilogue, really. It's very standalone. It does have the gangs in it, right? How can I say this without being
This one's treated with
it's,
humor.
it isn't tied to anything except for some of the gangs, but what it's full of emotions,
Yep.
understanding,
It's
excitement, and bed bugs.
how, and again, I did not see what their bed bug was. I thought it was going to be something else. And thinking of this world, that would have been crazy in itself. But
Yeah.
their bed bug,
Because the issue is called bed bug, which is
yes.
and you find out what the bed bug is, and you go, never would have guessed that.
And it's such a
Never.
tongue in cheek, but it's like almost like a romantic comedy, which
It
he
is
was
romantic
talking about.
comedy,
Yeah,
yeah.
and he said if he had more time, he would have fleshed out more of like what they were going through in their first meeting, because it's these two characters kind of coming out of divorces and broken relationships and seeing if they can believe in love again. And little do they know they share a similar kink. I think I can say that much. And from there,
Well, let's read. I'll read what
from there,
I'll read the description for it that Mr. Lee's left for us, graphite or what they left for us to read about it, and it is a love story, sync style. Following their respective divorces, Luis and Kieran are taking their first tentative steps back into the world of dating. After a lovely dinner, Luis invites Kieran back to her place. There's just one problem. Luis lives in Sink Hill. Will this turn out to be the first date from hell? That's it.
yeah,
Question mark.
yeah. And the one movie that he talks about, which I saw the trailer for, and I'd probably give it a shot, is The Night of the Virgin. So if you
Yeah,
notice,
that's correct. I read everything he said about that. Sorry, I just butted right
yes,
in there. But I was
go
like,
for it.
what is this?
Yes. Did you
And he
check
talks
out the
about the
trailer?
baby steps it takes to. I didn't
Yes.
watch the trailer. No,
Check that out.
I don't.
I don't know if we're not going to link it. If you hear it, go
No.
check out that trailer. We're around spooky time, so it makes sense. But you can kind of see the beats that he's playing towards in that film that he's doing with this. So, man, this run
It's a
was
Spanish
such a
film, right?
yes. And usually when it's an international film, it's balls to the wall. They don't really care about any sort of rules that's
No.
gonna make them hate it. It's one of those movies that either people are walking out of or they have to see how it ends. It's so crazy, which is kind of sync. You're either walking out after the first issue like I can't handle this shit, or you're like how does this end? So the sad thing is we only have these two volumes, right? Like there's no
Yeah.
more sync that we know of.
Yeah.
But man, like I still want more of this world. I feel
Yeah.
like he hasn't even scratched the surface of all the stuff we can do.
No. No. There's a lot more. There's a lot more to explore here because you could just make this go on for almost ever, really, with the amount of characters you bring in, and time doesn't seem to play a place here. Like because some issues happen out of order and they're this way and that way, and it doesn't really matter. It all works together, and it's a really cool world that they've crafted here together.
It's kind of Pulp Fiction, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Yeah. It's good to put it.
Uh, Again, we rate this out of
Oh, no, I was gonna say yeah. So we rate these on a good or bad basis. Good being boom, bad being bah, and whoosh being what did I just read? It's a boom, man.
yeah. Have we ever read a second volume and given it a lesser score than the first volume?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know because we've only done a handful of second volumes, haven't we?
And usually we only read the second volume because we enjoyed the first one. We're never like this is
That's
shitty. Let's
cheating,
keep
isn't
reading.
it? So we gotta read the second volume of something we didn't like. Is what you're saying?
I don't know. We gotta push through to see if it gets better.
We should do that.
I'm
Let's. I'll go back and see what we didn't like, and we'll do a second volume
you
for
know
that.
where we're going. We're going back to Shadowland.
No, we're not doing. God damn it!
This is I'm avoiding the easy boom. This is a boom. Read the whole 10 issues if you can because it flows amazingly. We have nothing but high things to say about this
Yeah,
property.
yeah.
We'll be looking for how to find a way to bring this back because we want more of this.
And if you're like me, who didn't like the very first issue, push through, man. The second issue is going to grab you.
Even if you read 9 issues of like, oh, this was too hard, you want to know what the bed bug is in the 10th issue.
You want to know what the bed bug
The
is,
10th issue will reward you for a bed bug.
and it's dark, but it's funny
And then, I mean, you get the clown at the end. The clown finally gets the remote.
and bed bug. The cloud. Yeah, when he's like, "Where's the TV? Where's the TV room?" I knew exactly what was. That was so funny. I knew it was gonna happen as soon as I was like, "What's the TV?" I was like, "Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah." Anyways, no more of that.
Same
We're out
veil,
of here.
baby. Same
It's
veil.
sync.